Our good friend Owen Fairclough, who is also an expert in Volkswagen now, has been following this crisis. He's here looking at how this all impacts the company here in the U.S., where they've received an awful lot of criticism.
Phil, one of the biggest and costliest challenges for Volkswagen will be fixing around 500,000 diesel-powered vehicles right here in the United States. That's because the emission standards are slightly higher here in the US than they are in Europe. So Volkswagen will have to spend more money and figure out a much more complicated way of making sure that these vehicles meet standards going forward. Well, at Volkswagen's sole US factory in Tennessee, employees there are looking forward to the new models that they will hope will be scandal-free.
Another day shift ends at Volkswagen's US factory in Tennessee. The vehicles these employees make aren't selling like they used to, down a quarter since US vehicle authorities exposed VW for cheating emissions tests. But the company is determined to ride the scandal out. Volkswagen's problems with trade unions are happening as it plans a major expansion of its operation here in Chattanooga. It plans to almost double the size of the workforce over the next year or so, and is also due to launch a sports utility vehicle specifically for the American market. VW wants to surf the wave of popularity for SUVs that have driven sales up more than 10% over the last year. Union leaders say that project is keeping employees focused.
We feel like the worst of it's probably over and that we're just going to do our job and expect them to do theirs, but the mood's pretty good here in Chattanooga.
Even so, VW has just 2% of the US market. Business leaders say it needs to keep investing here.
The U.S. is the second largest car market in the planet behind China, and so they need to do better in the U.S., and this is a big part of that strategy for them.
A strategy with an aim to reverse the recent sales slump and ensure there is enough demand to deliver 800,000 vehicles made on US soil by 2018.
Phil, it was interesting traveling around Tennessee and particularly Chattanooga. You see the dealerships, everybody knows VW there. It's a huge employer. It's going to have some 4,000 people there over the next year or so. But it's easy to forget that really in the United States, we're talking about a very minor player, that globally in the United States, a lot of people don't really know this company, or certainly didn't until this emissions scandal came about. And I wonder today whether the company, in talking about restoring its reputation, was really talking about Europe, where of course it's one of the best known car makers, sells the bulk of its orders. Here in the United States, its sales growth last year in 2014 wasn't even 0.5%. In Asia, another growth market, it was more than 10%. So you can kind of see the battle it's got really to try and establish some kind of significant presence here in the US.
I mean, in fairness, they do have a significant presence. I mean, they sell, you know, as you see, 500,000 cars here in the US, and they're famous for the sort of fuel efficiency and the diesel. That was their big selling point. Did you get a sense what their plan is now going forward? Are they going to try to expand that, or is it still crisis control?
Well, I think from the experts you heard there in my report, they have to really. We're talking about one of the most important car markets in the world. It's interesting. I wonder if you and I had this conversation 5 or 6 years ago when fuel prices were double what they are now. Would people have abandoned this brand much faster than they have now, with more concern about fuel efficiency? Everybody now is going towards the SUVs, Phil, the pickups. They're selling really well here in the United States. And VW has to get on that bandwagon if it's going to try and get some kind of mass market presence, certainly in the United States.
The one thing that we forget about in these crises is that the company might be to blame, but all the employees are certainly not to blame, and all of them are affected. They're impacted because of the company, the share price, the profits of the company, their families, and there's a reputational thing. I mean, you should be generally proud of where you work, I'm assuming. Did you get a sense from any of them that they felt responsible or sorry, or they just wish this would just get resolved? Because I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
And the workers on the ground, certainly those on the production line, feel this was at management level, that it didn't really affect them. Certainly in Chattanooga,
they blame management.
They certainly blame management and feel it was a handful of bad apples, and that has been borne out by the company, who said in their news conference today that their preliminary investigations suggest it is a handful of people at fault here.
Yeah. Well, when we make mistakes, I blame RT too. Owen, thank you very much.